Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webcast. My name is Mike Otranto, and I'm a strategic account specialist at Wickersoft. I'm also joined on today's webcast with Jim Patterson, who leads in a business development role. Today, we will focus on healthcare project management. After the webinar, you will receive an email with a copy of the recording and the slide deck so you can review. The line will not be open for questions, but you can type in your questions via the chat feature. So, if you want to know more about Wickersoft and who we are today, we are a Microsoft joint venture that was founded in 2002. We provide consulting, business process outsourcing, managed services, and global support for staffing. We are a triple gold certified Microsoft partner. Less than 1% of partners ever have that designation. We are certified in project portfolio management, collaboration and content, and cloud productivity. From a project and portfolio management standpoint, we have a deep expertise in Project Online and Project Server. So we have a lot of experience helping organizations maximize their efficiency and technological advantage. We have a footprint all over North America and internationally. I will now hand off the webcast to Jim Patterson.
Thanks, Mike. Very much appreciated. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And let's get into the topic area today of healthcare project management. How healthy is your portfolio? I'm going to cover some topics and tee up the subject matter a little bit, and then Matthew Willey will jump on and give you a demonstration of the solution in action. Just to reiterate, Wickersoft is a one-stop shop for the modern project management office. So whether it be any of the professional services around putting solutions like this in place, any of the education or training, any ongoing customer success and support needs that you might have, and even helping you with your business processes to align the capabilities with the solution with your processes or industry standards that might be needed. We've been doing this since the very onset of Microsoft project management. So we have a lot of years of experience in this, and we can leverage a lot of experience and best practices with you. So let's talk about some of the current state of healthcare and how it relates to project management and why project management has become so important to the industry. If you look at the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act of March 2010, that was one of the most impactful pieces of federal legislation on the healthcare industry since Medicare and Medicaid. The ACA has resulted in initiatives and enablers for the implementation of electronic health records, associated meaningful use, resultant procedural changes, and the advent of the health information exchanges. All of these initiatives, coupled with movement to patient-centered care, evidence-based medicine, and centers of excellence, and other forces bearing down on the healthcare industry, it really has initiated an extreme number of healthcare projects going on within the US and globally. On top of that, the demands that are driving the need for projects to be delivered in order to meet government regulations and drive patient care and quality initiatives, these healthcare organizations are facing challenges with significant reductions in revenue coming in from sources such as Medicare, Medicaid, and other third-party reimbursements. They're also experiencing rising costs, and this is making it a very challenging time for the healthcare industry. The idea is, how can we do more with less and become more effective at the same time? It's a significant challenge. So with the high demand of projects and being constrained with limited budgets, showing clinical leaders the value of project management as well as portfolio management really is a must and not a luxury any longer. By implementing PPM or project and portfolio management, not only will they put their effort into the right projects, investing in the most valuable strategic projects within their constraints, they'll also have a higher likelihood of successfully executing on those projects. So really what we see here is that if we get better at aligning the work that we're doing with the objectives, by doing the right work, organizations that invest in strategic prioritization deliver up to 40% more value to the organization. And also, if we're working on the right projects, we have a better chance of doing the work right, meaning if we have a better selection and alignment process, projects that are well aligned with strategies are 54% more likely to succeed, according to McKinsey. And I like, and maybe you've seen this quote before from Peter Drucker, there is surely nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency what should not be done at all. The question is, are the things we're doing do not align well with the strategies and the drivers that we have in place, then we should seriously question why we're doing them. Now, healthcare organizations have several unique attributes that can make project management success and adoption more challenging than in other industries. The landscape of projects is much more complex. For example, many projects affect clinical workflow, resulting in cross-functional teams dealing on a daily basis with life and death issues, and quality of patient care always takes a priority in this environment, as it should. These projects also navigate a complex personnel structure within organizations, including not-for-profit as well as for-profit ownership, and a wide variety of stakeholders with regulatory agencies often playing a big role in compliance-driven projects. Not only is it complex, healthcare is rapidly changing and being driven by government and patient demands, resulting in rapidly changing technologies to keep up with these demands. Also, expertise in the healthcare industry is critical for project success, again requiring unique skill sets that may not be needed in other industries. And the cross-functional teams with potentially different cultural viewpoints on how to proceed makes it even more challenging in executing on these projects by project management folks. So if we look at it, the things that are needed is care quality, cost containment, and external review are key characteristics of healthcare projects. Quality of patient care is crucial, and healthcare is very personal, including personal information. Government regulatory agencies, like we talk about, play a big role, and finances can be complex, and the projects themselves are becoming ever more complex. And even the deliverables and the metrics are different, and the way we measure success is also different, and that leads us into the next slide. So if you look at the traditional triple constraint triangle in project management that measures scope, time, and cost, see how the triangle transfers a little bit from a clinician's perspective. Project success can also be measured differently from another dimension in addition to those things. We want to improve clinical outcomes. We want to improve patient safety and maintain patient safety. And we also want to have productivity. We want to comply with federal regulations. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to run a financially sound business with rising costs and decreasing funding. So the idea there's other considerations beyond just the normal triple constraint that we deal with in healthcare. So these projects that are being spawned and these initiatives that are being spawned within healthcare organizations typically impact a variety of departmental areas, from IT to administration to a clinical setting and on and on. The art and the science of project management, though it's applicable to every aspect of healthcare, whether deploying tools to accelerate revenue, setting up new departments, implementing an electronic health record system, expanding the outpatient services and offerings, or even deploying clinical business intelligence solutions. These all are relevant types of projects and initiatives that healthcare organizations are facing today. So instead of relying on in-house clinical or technical resources, maybe with limited formal project management experience, successful healthcare organizations are adopting more formal project management methodologies, as well as engaging people with the training and experience needed to successfully plan, execute, and monitor large projects or enterprise-wide projects, or even programs like the EMR types of things that have gone on in recent years. In addition, communication skills are key. The experienced healthcare project manager has to collaborate closely with administrative staff, physicians, caregivers, technical staff, regulatory agencies, and so a wide, diverse population of participants and stakeholders. So when planning a project in order to enhance patient safety, quality of care, and the patient experience, and to be able to successfully navigate all that requires a pretty good communication skill set and also a good understanding of the business across different dimensions. The project manager must also do this while taking into account increasing patient numbers, staffing shortages, and even tighter budget constraints. So all in all, the need to become more effective through project management has never been more important. So help is on the way, and an integrated PPM or project and portfolio management solution can help. As the healthcare industry becomes even more complex, particularly within project management, it's even more important and critical for people to develop processes and best practices that are reinforced with tools, maybe not let the tools drive. And Project Online from Microsoft can assist project managers and their teams to carry out projects successfully. It is built on an Office 365 platform, meaning if your organization is using Office 365, one of the added benefits of synergies is that it really becomes just an extension of the overall business productivity experience. It provides a holistic, collaborative experiences for project managers, resource managers, team members, and the executive team that wants to get this information. The cloud offerings from Microsoft help customers realize tangible benefits such as cost reduction, business agility, flexibility, and scalability, as well as compliance support for regulations, including but not limited to HIPAA. So the idea here is that there's a whole lot of security capabilities that are built in this that help you be compliant within this. And the idea is if it becomes a natural extension of your overall office business productivity, you don't have to learn other technologies or skill sets in order to maintain it. It's built on a cloud infrastructure, meaning Microsoft has redundant data centers and very robust infrastructure for this. There's SLAs that guarantee well in excess of 99.9% uptime. And there's trusted security and compliance that help meet the needs of HIPAA and other things that you might want to have. And then a little more detail on that. Microsoft is committed to the different certifications and compliances that will bring comfort levels and the proper level of security for all different industries, but in healthcare it's important. So the idea is that it's a process-driven framework for online security to support HIPAA requirements, but also support certifications such as ISO 27001, SAS 70 Type 2 compliance, SSAE 16, and EU Safe Harbor, meaning the healthcare is not different from a lot of other regulated and highly sensitive industries, and Microsoft has the cloud capabilities and the tier of security that's relevant for your particular organization. And if you delve into this further, we often have conversations with the info security folks and compliance folks to make sure that the comfort level and they're comfortable with the fact that these requirements will be met. So overall, providing more industry-specific solutions within Project Online and other Microsoft technologies is a focus and direction that Microsoft is taking. They are aligning vertical specialization to the healthcare industry, not just in the healthcare providers, but in the payers, and even in the pharma and life sciences roles of these types of things. And to that end, providers like Wickersoft are aligning themselves with where Microsoft's going in that industry focus. And we can provide industry-specific specialists to you in helping you navigate and maybe implement systems like this and see if Project Online can meet your requirements. So with that, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a setting for this. And now we want to look at a demonstration of what this healthcare PPM solution looks like that leverages Project Online at its core. With that, I'd like to introduce Matthew Willey, who will conduct the demonstration for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm logged in here into Project Online, and I'm looking at the list of all of my different projects that I have going on right now.
Muted.
I have these grouped out into different portfolios, but we could come in and change this, and maybe I want to see it by different categories, for example. Within Project Online, we can handle projects of all different types. So everything from the clinical side, like patient health, consumer types of projects, as well as IT projects could all flow in and be together and live together in harmony within inside of Project Online if you choose to do so, right? And so we can see the status of all these different projects here, the overall status, schedule, status, cost, issue, work, etc. I even get a high-level timeline of these projects, or Gantt, if you want to call it that, of the different projects and how that all lays out over time. But the big trend that we're seeing in healthcare right now is that you're being asked to do more with less, right? We have to get all these different things done with the resources that we have and within the budget constraints that we have and so on and so forth. So what I'll walk through here is a basic scenario where I can come in and I can do a portfolio analysis around these different projects and figure out how can we get the most value, how can we focus our resources and our costs, our dollars in the right places, make the best investments that we can possibly make. So the way that works is for each of these different projects, we need 3 different things. And I'll go into one here, like my vapor project, for example. For example, this particular project is around ventricular pneumonia. And so what happens a lot of times is when people come in for a standard kind of cold or flu, if it doesn't get taken care of properly, a lot of times it will turn into pneumonia. And there's actually then metrics that a lot of organizations track around that. And, out of 10 cases or 100 cases or 1,000 cases of the flu, how many turn into pneumonia? And the lower we can get those numbers, the better. And so if we wanted to do something about that and try to put in new policies and procedures and processes and equipment and such in place to try to get that to be lower, to make that better, then we can set up a project around that. And there's 3 things that we're really going to need. One thing that we're going to need to understand is the value of this project. And so we can come in and we can set up different business drivers, like we want to improve patient safety and quality of care. We want to improve regulatory compliance. There are different goals that we have as a healthcare organization, and we have to define, how is this project going to help us? Well, this is going to strongly help me improve patient safety and quality of care. Maybe it's not going to improve very much regulatory compliance, and we can come in and score these. That's going to give us the value of the project. The other thing that we can do is we need to understand the resources and the cost that it's going to take to do this particular project. There are multiple ways that you can put that into the system. You can do high-level kind of top-down resource plans, or you can do high-level or more detailed project schedules like you see here. But what this is going to do is this is going to give us a better idea of the types of resources that we're going to need to do this project. I need a client device specialist, and I need a medical support program analyst, and whatever it might be, these types of things, right? And so we need to understand the resource impacts of these projects, as well as we need to understand the cost, and that can come from your project schedule, or it can be a higher level kind of budget as well if you choose to do so. In all aspects, we now understand the costs, we understand the resources, and we understand the benefits of this particular project. From there, we can go and we can do our portfolio analysis. So let's go ahead and jump on in and do that. So now I need to figure out, okay, there are 30 different projects that are coming our way. Which ones do we want to do? Where do we want to focus our resources and our dollars, our investments, to get the most value? So I'll go into a scenario I already have here, which is my $35 million budget scenario. Let's say I have $35 million and I need to figure out where to spend all of this money and get the most value. And what this is telling me is, based off of the information I've already put in, if I select these projects, all the projects that are here under selected, not the ones that are under unselected, then I can get 84% of the value and stay within my $35 million budget. And so behind the scenes, what this is doing is it's going through and optimizing the portfolio and figuring out the best mix of projects to get the most benefit for the cost, right? And I can see here what the total cost of each of these projects is, and that all rolls up and so on and so forth. But you always have control over which projects you want to select. So what I can do is I can force things in, and I can also force things out. And so if it's a, say, a compliance project, it's something that we absolutely have to do, even though it might not be giving us much value, we can force that in. And what that's going to do is that's going to push out some other projects into this unselected area so that we still keep within our budget here, right? And if I force certain things out, I know we absolutely don't want to do it for whatever reason, that will allow other projects to kind of slide in. So instead of trying to do this in an Excel spreadsheet or just kind of making guesses on, gut feelings of what you think might be the best, this can give you a little bit more objective information and a better way to look at it, all that information, so that you can try to make some better decisions around where do we want to invest to get the most value, right? So from there, then just because we have the dollars to do these projects doesn't necessarily mean we have the resources. That's not necessarily just labor resources. That can also be equipment and facilities and other types of resources as well, materials, so on and so forth, if we're including that in our resource plans and or project schedules when we put that in. So when I come in here, I can automatically see that we don't have the resources to do all these projects when they're being asked to be done anyway. So you can see all these projects in their estimated start and finish date, and this is when people are requesting these projects to happen. And if I do them all in this time period, it's only selecting some of the projects. It didn't select others. And that's how I know that we're having some resource problems here. We're not going to be able to get everything done with the current resources we have if we do them in the time periods being asked. But what you can do is you can come here and you can move this out, say 3 months, 6 months, you know, some of these lower priority, lower value projects. We could push those out and stagger these a little bit better. And then our resources don't have to work on all the projects at the same time. And that's one possible way that we can solve these resource problems and still, you know, get everything done that we need to get done. It's just going to take us a little bit longer. The other option that I have here is, what if I'm willing to hire resources? I already know I have the dollars to do these things. I just need to be okay with increasing our headcount. And even maybe these are just contractors temporarily if we don't need them long term. So I can say, what if we hire, you know, 2 resources, something like that, and hit recalculate, and it'll go through and it chugs and it runs all of its algorithms. And then now you can see it actually moved 1 project in. So it moved this project here in, and we now get 81% of the value. So we can keep playing around with this. We can move projects around, you know, move out our lower priority projects. We can say, what if we hire resources? Create some different scenarios. Scenario A, we hire 2 people. Scenario B, we move out 3 of our lowest priority projects. Scenario C, maybe a mixture of the both. And then we can come to an agreement and an approach on how we're actually really going to go and attack these projects and resource them, at least from a high level kind of portfolio perspective. So that we start out with a better plan than nothing is really what it comes down to. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do in here. And different ways you can look at it. There's a requirements details area that shows you a heat map of where the you know, resource constraints are, what roles, and so on and so forth. What I really like is this hired resources report. So if I run this, it's actually going to then tell me things like, if I hire these 2 people, who should I hire and where should I put them? It's telling me I should hire a client device specialist to work on this radiology project from this date to that date, and here's the cost, and here's the work, and, you know, the rates, and so on and so forth. So it kind of just lays it all out for me and gives me that information. So again, once we commit to a plan, I now have an action. I know what to do. We need to go find these 2 resources, and either contractors or not, depending on if this is a long time period or not, and if we want to bring on, you know, full-time resources, right? So it can really help with that whole process up front and get, you know, have better information, make better investments so we can generate more value and do more with less is really what it comes down to. So from there, you know, that will then approve a certain set of projects, and now we need to go execute on those projects. We need to start planning them in more detail and executing on them and actually getting them done in those time periods that they're being asked to be done, right? So if I go back into my Vapor project here, we can take a look at the workflow that's going on for this particular project. So when we very first put in a new project, based off of the type of project, we can kick off a workflow. And so maybe IT projects go through one type of a workflow and have certain stages and phases that they're going to go through, and certain approvals have to happen at certain stages, whereas clinical projects maybe go through a different workflow. It's also very common that your larger projects may have a more rigorous workflow. Smaller projects may have no workflow at all, or a much smaller, less rigorous workflow. And so right now in this particular project, I'm still in the early phases here. I'm just starting to get to the project management part where I'm going to start to, you know, doing some more detailed planning. And you can see here the full flow of this workflow and where we're going to go. We're going to go from innovation capture to approval to planning to execution to closeout. And as we move from each one of these stages to the next, we can send out notifications to the right people. We can send out approvals. So you have to get approval by this person or group of people before we can move to the next stage. We can require certain information to be filled in before, you know, we can move on to the approval stage. We have to put in certain information. And we can also lock information down. Once I get to execution, we want to lock down the budget, let's say, so that we can't change that anymore. So it really helps us to automate this process instead of having it be very manual and having to send out a lot of emails and have a lot of meetings and so on and so forth, as well as put a solid governance structure in place that everyone has to follow. It's not optional, right? You have to go through these different workflow stages and get these different approvals to move on and to continue to do what you need to do. So it can really help put that governance in place, as well as just help the project more easily flow from start to end, right? From there, once these projects, get approved through that portfolio analysis process or other means, we then need to go out and start doing some more planning. So, for example, I have, let's to my HIPAA project here, for example, HIPAA data compliance implementation. Let's say we're getting ready to plan that all out. One of the very first things that I might want to do is go and build out my project schedule. If I hadn't already done so, and or maybe build more detail into my project schedule. And so Project Online lets you use the online planner to come in and build out your project schedule right through your web browser. It has all of the kind of lightweight, basic scheduling options that you might want. You can link tasks, and you can indent and outdent and save baselines. There is a Gantt chart built right into this view here, so I can see how that flows from a Gantt perspective, so on and so forth. If you want to, you can also use Microsoft Project Desktop. I just come in here, and instead of saying open in the browser, I want to open it in Microsoft Project. And so if you're familiar with that and you want all the bells and whistles and all the power of Project Desktop, you can utilize that as well. And when you save, it saves back to here. And when you publish, it publishes back to here. So either way, you get the same result, no matter if you use the online planner or Project Desktop. It's really just preference and which features and capabilities are you looking for from a scheduling perspective. But I can come in, do all of my project scheduling, and then once I assign these tasks out, people can go update their status on those through the My Work feature. There's a timesheet functionality in here, so people can go in and track their time that they're spending on these different projects and tasks and such, so on and so forth, and you can really go through that whole process. There's also a project site in here where everyone can come in and communicate and collaborate. If you're familiar with SharePoint, this is a SharePoint team site, but it's kind of on steroids. It has some extra project management capabilities in it, so we can do things like see a timeline of your different tasks and what tasks are upcoming and what tasks are late. And it gives you some other things in here, like being able to track issues and risks around your project, and documents and so on and so forth. So you can utilize this project site to communicate, collaborate, give your team members as well as stakeholders visibility into the project and what's going on. And as well as there are reports, which we'll see in just a second, some examples of reports. But we can really come in here and work on this project, execute on it, get it done, and track all the different aspects of it, everything from schedule status to cost, to issues, to risks, to documents, all the different artifacts that you might want to track around a project, right? All within one place, and it all fits back into the Office 365 platform. So from there, we're working on all these different projects. There's resource management capabilities built into this, and I showed earlier a little bit, at a high level from a portfolio analysis perspective, how we can start to look into those resources. But now that we're actually working on these projects, at any time we can come in and we can check on our resources and see, well, that was our initial plan, but things don't always work out that way. I can come in and follow up on things and see how we're going, if we have availability, who's over allocated and not. So if people show up in red, more from a resource manager perspective, if people show up in red, then they're over allocated. You can see this Ben here is working on 2 different projects, clinical applications, bug fix, as well as digital record management upgrades. And that's causing him to be over allocated. So maybe we need to get him some help. If they're blue, then that means that they have availability. So there's still more work that we can give them, right? They have availability to take on more projects. If they're green, then that means that we're utilizing them properly. We don't have to, necessarily give them any more work. We're utilizing them without over allocating them or under allocating them, right? That type of a thing. So we can come in and get those types of views and get visibility from a resource management perspective. And there's actually a whole module around resource engagements that allows us to do negotiation between a project manager and a resource manager. So resource managers or department managers or whoever it is that says, here you go, here are your resources. There's a full module built into the system that lets us handle that as well, if you're interested in that. So at the end of the day, we keep chugging on these projects. We're working on them. People are getting assigned tasks. They're updating their status, updating their time. We're tracking issues and risks. And that all will automatically flow into different dashboards and reports. And we have a bunch of different out-of-the-box reports that you can start from to get visibility into what's going on. So there's reports around the demand and intake that's coming in. There's reports around resource management, around project status reports. timesheet reports, so on and so forth. And I won't go through all of them today in any means, but I'll show you here an example or two of some of them. So this particular report shows me all of the different projects that we have going on within our portfolio, and it's a very strategic dashboard, meaning we want to make sure that we're doing more with less, like we talked about earlier, more from a portfolio analysis type of perspective. So the first thing I'm looking at here is a bubble chart, and this bubble chart is showing me total cost versus quality of care. And so as we spend more money, we would hope that we were going to get better quality of care if that's our main goal, or one of our main goals, for example, in this scenario. And these can be tweaked and changed. So if you want to reflect total cost versus compliance, or total cost versus value in general, or however you want that to work, it's very easy to make those tweaks and modifications. And so I can see each one of these dots is a different project. And I can come hover over it and see if the cost is really high and it's not helping us to get much better quality of care, which is one of our main goals, then maybe it's something we might want to consider not doing. In this case, this is an electronic patient record migration. Maybe it's something that we have to do. Then we don't really have that option, but we can start to look into that and get a better idea of what's going on. And then it gives us all the different projects down here below, the status of those projects, what stage they're in. And we can start to utilize the filters to kind of chop this down and just look at the projects we want to look at. Maybe I'm just interested in the healthcare auditing and improvement category. I can focus in on that and notice everything kind of changes and filters down, and now I'm just looking at that set of projects and see how we're doing on our different KPIs here of quality of care, and ROI, and any other types of things that we might be tracking from a metrics perspective, right? And so all this data automatically flows into Power BI, and we can do all sorts of reports to get visibility into what's going on at the end of the day and better understand how we're doing from lots of different perspectives. So with that, hopefully you can see how you can use Project Online to manage all of your different projects. To not only the execution of them, but also picking and choosing and making sure that you're picking the right projects, doing the right work, putting your efforts and your resources into the right places, and then all the way through the whole process, executing on those, tracking those, providing status through reports and so on and so forth, and getting better visibility into what's going on through that whole entire process. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Jim for just a couple more slides here, and then we'll let you guys go for the day. So there you go, Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Matthew. That was very enlightening. So let's do a little summarization and wrap up. What are the possible next steps here for those of you that found this of interest? First off, we are going to send you a copy of the slide deck with all this information, so you don't need to take notes, and you're also going to get a link to the recording of this presentation if you want to review it again or share it with others. But from a next steps perspective, Wickersoft is here to support you in any way you want. We offer free assessments and roadmaps of what it would take to get you into a solution like this. To that end, we also would offer you a free Project Online trial and chaperone support from Wickersoft through that process as you evaluate whether this is a good fit for your organization. In addition, we can do a personalized one-on-one demo for your organization. Obviously, what we showed today was fairly generic, but if there's things that we want to do to meet specific needs in your organization, we're happy to set up a personalized demonstration for you as well. And that includes what Microsoft calls a customer immersion experience, or a CIE, where we can sit down with you hands-on and actually work with you and evaluate in a conference room, for example, all the things that you want to see from a proof perspective that it can meet your needs. And even just industry best practice sharing. We work with a lot of healthcare and healthcare related organizations, and we can maybe help you with some ideas of what other people are doing and just keep you abreast of kind of the latest things that people are doing from a solution perspective. There's all kinds of folks you can reach out to, generally from an email to Wickersoft, NA Sales, which is North American Sales at Wickersoft.com, is a general way. I'm happy, myself, Jim Patterson, to field any questions or inquiries you might have. Mike Otranto, who did the introduction, really handles a lot of the inside sales and customer interaction capabilities. And Scott Daly is also one of our healthcare vertical industry specialists that can help as well. So there's a wide variety and depth of folks here at Wickersoft that can help you explore any of these areas if you see fit. So just from a thank you perspective, a couple other things to wrap up. We have us.wickersoft.com is a website that has a whole lot of information regarding the offerings that Wickersoft provides, as well as project-online.com with Project Online specific information. And also, if you really found this webinar helpful, we have a whole library of on-demand and a schedule of upcoming webinars. So if you go to uswickersoft.com/webinars, you can register and find those, or even look at what we've done historically to get you more information in this regard. Also, if you want to learn more, there's some folks that we collaborate with, and there's a book available on Amazon for healthcare project management. And it's really about best practices that are aligned with project management in healthcare. And we want to share this book that was written by Kathy Schwab and Dan Furlong. Dan manages a PMO for the Medical University of South Carolina, and Kathy is a PhD and PMP who has experience in this field and also with the U.S. Air Force and Boeing and Clark Oil and other organizations. So if you want to go more in depth in some of the challenges and solutions that are available for healthcare students and professionals, please take a look at that. So with that, I hope you found the time spent with us today of value, and we'd love to interact with you more going forward. Look for that email from us that has the link to the slide deck and the recording. But with that, just hope you all have a great day, and let us know how we can help you moving forward. Talk to you soon.